Hey guys, it's Beth. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm sharing with you the cards I've made for the 10 on the 10th card collab that is hosted by MetalScrappinChick. And each month on the 10th we post at least or around 10 cards or more that we've made for Christmas, just trying to get ahead on Christmas card making. And there is a whole group of crafters that are participating in this collaboration, and they will all be linked in the description box below. So this month for my Christmas cards, I decided to focus on, or I guess let me back up. For my Use It Up 2020 challenge, I determined that I was going to work on using up my scrap stash. I had a huge box of just scraps, all kinds of different scraps, and so my focus this month was going to be trying to use up as much of that as I could. Well, within that box there were tons of Christmas scraps, so I decided to use those to make the cards for my 10 on the 10th collaboration. And I got a good number of cards, and I still have like a whole bag of scraps left. I went through and sorted them kind of by like colors that went well together or patterns that coordinated, and have just been kind of working through them in groups like that. And I think I've worked through 3 or 4 groups so far and have all of that bag left. And in that process I managed to use up a bunch of embellishments as well, some really, really old rub-ons, some old stickers. These aren't that old, they're the Paper Studio, oh, I take it back, 2009. And some other 3D type embellishments from I don't know when. But so that was nice, kind of used up some of the scraps and used up a bunch of embellishments so far. So I managed to get 36 cards so far. Like I just kind of, whatever I had made by yesterday was just what I was going to make for 10 on the 10th. So again, I am well over 10. And I could have kept going, but I'm kind of done with Christmas scraps right now. I kind of needed to move on. I want to move on to something else. So here are the cards that I've got so far. I did use sketches for some, and then some of them I just kind of played with whatever sizes of paper that I had to work with. So this is Operation Right Home, sketch number 143, and it just used a bunch of different strips. And then on this solid one, that's where I added my stamped sentiment. And then these little poinsettias were one of the packs of embellishment or stickers that I had used up. And so I just felt like it needed a little bit more color, and so I just popped 3 of those on the card. This is Mojo Monday, sketch number 435. And I made 2 of these, and again I had a bunch of scraps that were about 2 inches wide of both of these patterns, and so I made 2 of these cards and then used the rest of them in some different ways. But here is a sentiment I printed out from my silhouette, and I just double matted it and help it stand out a little bit more. And then I also have just like this bag of random Christmas things that are left over, or it's kind of, I had some of the scraps that I used were from there too, but it's kind of, if I have a little bit left of something, I throw it in this envelope bag kind of thing, and we'll work through it occasionally and make some tags or like mini cards. So I had some of these in there, which just a stamp poinsettia on red, so I fussy cut it out and then just popped it on there. And this one, Merry Christmas, was actually a vinyl sentiment, or a little vinyl image that I had cut out of some scrap vinyl at some point, and so I thought that was cute and decided to throw that on there, and again double matted it, this time with the red in the back. This does not have, oh, it's just SC 581. So took some more of those strips that I had and group them together. Here is another, this Noel was another vinyl image that I had cut out of scraps. Put it on some more of that green, backed it on a white stitch circle, And then again, felt like it needed something else down here. So these little star shapes were already punched and in that little envelope bag that I had the random Christmas stuff in. Here is Operation Right Home sketch number 29. And again, just use, this one is like really simple, and which is why I ended up throwing a bunch of the green stars on there. I didn't have a whole lot left to work with at this point of the bigger scraps, so I just took the strip of the solid and then some of that stripes, and then I did add a sentiment across here, which the sketch didn't call for, and then felt like it needed something more, so I popped in just a bunch of punched stars out of green cardstock. This is Operation Right Home sketch number 25, which doesn't want to show on that dark gray. And I took some of the smaller strips that I had, or smaller pieces, and cut them down. They're like 2 inches by 1 3/4 inches, and did a couple versions of these. This one uses the dots and then the stripes, and then I just have a sentiment down here. This one is all dots. I just have them going in different directions. There's 2 different directions that they're going. And then I added a sentiment up here, and then I brought in some red circles just to kind of break it up a little bit. And then I used another one of those little poinsettia flowers down here. And then those 2 are pretty much the same, except for the circles are in different spots. And then these I kind of stopped using, or this is where I did not use sketches anymore. I talked about those 2-inch strips that I had. I had a bunch of them that were already like perfect size for a card mat as far as the height. So they were 5 1/4 inches tall and then 2 inches wide. So I was like, well, that's pretty much a card mat. And so I just kind of grouped them together, and some of them I was able to line up really closely so that you couldn't even tell. Like this one you kind of can. And if it was really obvious that they were 2 pieces grouped together, I tried to cover the seam. But here, since I had this here and the Noel, I just kind of left it. But you can see where the seam is right there. Other than that, it looks like it's covering, one piece covering the whole front. So here is another image that I had cut out of some scrap vinyl. Put it on white this time, and instead of, I had a scrap of red cardstock kind of sitting in front of me that was almost big enough to be a mat, but not quite. And so I thought, well, I'll just make it kind of show on the sides instead of be a full mat all the way around. And then Noel I had also cut out of white vinyl. This one again has the 2 striped pieces that are put together, and this one you can't tell at all where the seam is the way it lined up. So here I just took a bunch of the other smaller scraps and kind of grouped them together to make another like focal piece on the card. Have a stamp sentiment here, a green tree that I had punched out of some scrap cardstock that was already punched into my stash, and then just some little puffy stickers to kind of make it a little more fun. This one, same thing, two strips that were put together, a bunch of little strips that I grouped together for my focal point up here, and then added 2 little, they're foam, 3D foam, what are those, presents stickers that I just grouped together there, and then a stamp sentiment across the bottom. Here again, the 2 pieces to create my card mat, and then more strips that I created a focal point with, and again another one of those cute little Santa puffy stickers with the stamp sentiment. And then here I just used, there's 2 dots pieces that are put together for my card mat, and then I had this Santa, he was like an old 3D embellishment, and I ended up having to kind of glue him back together because a lot of his pieces weren't sticking anymore. And so I just made him my main focal element on this one, and then this Merry Christmas, I think it came from a tag kit. I don't know, it was like in that stash of random Christmas stuff, I had a handful of those left. So the Merry Christmas was already printed on there. This one just took a tree that I had cut from my silhouette out of some scrap cardstock. The 2 pieces grouped together here for the card mat, another scrap, and then a stamped sentiment at the bottom. Here I was trying to use up some of the last of those little strips that I had left, so I ended up putting it on some green cardstock for a mat, and then threw a sentiment kind of there in the middle, and then just left the red strip of paper down at the bottom. Here's kind of a bunch of little pieces that I grouped together. This one was just like a standalone scrap that was in there, and then I had another little piece of this, and yeah, and then this Christmas tag was also in my little random bag of Christmas stuff. So just to dress it up a little bit, I did add a bow just to give it something fun up here, and then Noel is cut from red vinyl scraps. And then this one, I had some pieces, I had 6 pieces that were all the exact same size. And so I was just kind of playing around with them on the card and realized that they fit perfectly, you know, if I could do 2 rows of 3 and then just cut fishtails in them, and I didn't have to trim them down at all. They were all perfectly sized. Added a Merry Christmas rub-on down here on this piece of red cardstock, and then have some little vinyl circles, and then some more of those little poinsettia stickers. Here I just took some of the strips that I had, cut them into fishtails on both ends, and then just kind of like whimsically grouped them together, kind of haphazardly there in the center, and then added a strip of white cardstock across the, kind of to tie them all together. And then I had this little cute little scallop circle in my stash, and so I just picked a cute little Santa sticker to add on top of that. Here is a really old rub-on, and there's actually multiple rub-ons going on here. The Santa suit was actually 2 pieces, and it showed them both hanging on hangers, and so I decided to just group it together so it looked like the whole suit was hanging on a hanger. So I did the pants first, and then I did the top, or his coat, on top of that with a little bit of overlap. And then the season greetings down here was also from that rub-on set. And I don't know if you can tell, but there's a little bit of glitter detail right here on the side of his pants and on all of his fur, and then on the season's greetings. And I just put that onto some textured white cardstock, and they're really old rub-ons, but it went on really well, really easily, even on the textured cardstock. And then behind it, there's like just 4 random strips of that striped paper. And then on the inside, there were 2 rub-ons left. There were his boots and then his hat. And so I just kind of grouped them together just to use them up just on the inside of that card. So this pretty much used a whole sticker sheet right here of just some Christmas cocktails, and it had the cinnamon cheers, so I went with that, and then the 3 drinks, and then there were just some like little star sparkly stickers left, and so I just kind of added 3 to the front and then added the rest of them on the inside of the card. And this used up another one of those little sticker sheets, the little ribbon with the lights, and then the lady, and then the naughty or nice is the sentiment on here. And I forgot to point out that the background on all 3 of these cards is just strips. I had so many strips that were all about the same size, and so I just cut some white cardstock down to card mat size, and then just started covered it with adhesive, and then just started laying the strips down and then trimmed them up. So I had enough strips to do 3 full-size cards, or full-size A2 size cards. So that used up most of the stickers from her sheet, except for that little cocktail glass, which I stuck on the inside. Here's those strips again. This time I just have a tree punched out of some scrap cardstock, backed on a white circle and a red scallop, my sentiment, and then I wanted to break up all of the pattern up here, so I put a white fishtail and then thought it still needed something. So I had some red, green, and white bows in my stash, like that random bag of Christmas stuff, so I just popped one up here to add some more color. So now we're switching to another set of the papers that I had found in my stash box. And these are like red, white, and black, and then there's some glitter on them. So this was what I had left at the end, and I just made 2 little 3x3 inch cards, like, you know, can be used as tags or whatever. and then just used a scallop scrap that I fussy cut out the corner of on the insides of both of the cards. And then these Santas have been in my stash for a really long time too. They were from archivers long ago. So here's another one of those strip cards. I just used some of the strips that I had left to cover a smaller white piece, and then ended up having to back it on green to fill in more of the card front and then to help it stand out. And then I had this little gnome sentiment. It was already printed and in my little sentiment stash that I had keep on my desk. And so I decided to go ahead and include it here, and then backed it on green to help it kind of tie in with the background. Here is another one of those where I didn't have to cut these pieces down. They were already all the same size. And so it's similar to what I did on the last one, except for these were small enough, and because they were white, I didn't want to put them directly onto my white card front, and so I added a black card mat. Then popped in my little fishtails, and they've got some cute red polka dots on them with a little bit of glitter. And then a stamp sentiment, and then just one of those little green bows. Here I had 3 squares of this red and white stripe, and then I had a bunch of strips of this black with like the red scallop, with a little bit of the red scallop showing. And so I decided to see how well these laid across the center of the card, and I just cut a little bit off of each side and then added 2 of those black strips at the top and bottom to help fill out the card base. Added my stamp sentiment here, and then just a little ornament embellishments that was in my stash, kind of a random bunch of little random pieces. Here is just random scraps that I popped together, and I felt like it needed something more after I got all the pieces on there, and so I just took a black marker and went through and did like a little, doodle border around the edge of the card, and then I did a little stitching around my white circle here, and then that's a sticker on the center, and then this Mary Mary is a sticker as well, and then I just took my same black marker and added 3 little dots going around the Mary Mary. Here is that black paper with the red glitter that I showed that was part of this, the strip. And since I had 3 pieces that were, pretty much the same, the bottoms were a little bit different, and they were all the same width. So I just kind of grouped those together, fishtailed them, tied them together with a white cardstock strip here in the center, and then added my sentiment on some black cardstock. And then I took Wink of Stella and went over the letters in my sentiment. Not sure if that will show there. You can kind of see the glitter, but just to go with the glitter that was already in the paper. Had some more of that red and white diagonal striped paper, and these were, I don't remember if they were all individual scraps or if I just cut them down to be the same length, and then just kind of grouped them together and decided to put them on some green cardstock to help them stand out off that white card base, and then added that same sentiment on top, and then also used the Wink of Stella on those letters as well. So that was the second group of scraps, and then here is the third that I worked on. And so I loved that red truck, and so I had 1 strip left, and then I had a couple of these green, so I just decided to group them together, and I double matted them. I put them on white and then backed them on black. Have just some red, like a subtle pattern strip going across the bottom here with another one of those pre-printed Merry Christmas sentiment strips, and then it just felt like the top needed a little bit more, and so I had 2 little white flowers that kind of look like poinsettias that were punched out and in my stash already, so I just threw those up there. These 2 I did the same, where I just took 2 scraps that were basically the same width and kind of grouped them together, and then covered up the gap here with a piece of black cardstock. And then I did add a black piece, kind of like Christy Marcotte does. I added a black piece up here at the top just to kind of carry the black through a little bit more. And then the sentiments, these are stickers from a Hobby Lobby sticker book, I believe. And I backed them both on white, and then this one I fussy cut around that fancy label just to make it more sturdy. And then the dots down here are just white vinyl circles. Here's some more of that red truck paper. These two, they're kind of similar. This one is the smaller square, and I've got the red. It's not even really, I don't know if you'd call it a chevron or just a zigzag pattern. And then used a green, I had a green cardstock strip that I just kind of popped on here to kind of bring out the green a little bit more. And then added my sentiment down here at the very bottom that says Happy Holidays. And it was a sticker from one of those little sticker sets that I used up. This one, this time, it's a bigger square, and I decided the red strip wasn't wide enough to look right up here, kind of behind my red truck piece like the green was. And so I wanted to put it across the bottom, and then I had picked out my sentiment and backed it on black cardstock and already put tape ATG on the back and went to put it on and realized that I couldn't center it on the red like I wanted to, just because it like overhung just a little bit on the black mat of my red truck piece. And then it was like right on the bottom too, so I ended up just kind of offsetting it, and so it overlapped here more. It's kind of a weird placement, but it looked better, I thought, than the other way. This one is two pieces of the pattern paper grouped together, covered the seam with a white strip, and then this little sleigh was a random 3D embellishment in my stash. Decided to use it up. And then this is a sticker from that Paper Studios sticker book that is backed on some white cardstock, and then the dots, again, are white vinyl circles. Here I did pretty much the same thing. It's two pieces that are grouped together from my card mat, covered the seam, just added a sentiment, and then felt like it needed more, that it was just too plain, and so I found 3 little star stickers, red star stickers, that I added at the bottom. This one, the same thing. I did not cover the seam on this one. And then I had this was a Christmas tag or a gift tag that I had received, so it actually has writing on the back. And I trimmed it down just a little bit because it was torn at the top, and then decided to cover, like you can still kind of see where it was torn, like when it was pulled off a bag. And so I just covered that with a white bow, and then this is another one of those pre-printed sentiments. So that is what I have come up with so far from playing with my scraps, and like I said, 36 Christmas cards, so that gets me well on my way. I don't really have a set number of goal that I'm working towards for the end of the year, but I do want to have enough to give to my dad's nursing home, so that's like 150, and then I would also like to have some to donate to Cards for Soldiers, and then, we'll see how much I have beyond that. So that's why I'm kind of working harder to make more than 10 each month. And so not only is it getting me ahead for those 2 goals, but it's also helping me use up my stash. So like I said, there was a lot more Christmas scraps left to use from that box. But anyway, that's my cards for this month. Sorry it got a little long with all the cards, but I hope you'll be sure to check out the others that are in the description box below and see what kind of cards that they've made for this month. But I thank you guys so much for your time today. I hope you're all doing well and staying healthy, and that you're finding some time to be crafty.